Good morning. Let me start by asking you a question. If today, right now, there was an earthquake to strike, what is the first thing that you're going to strive to protect? Think about that for a minute. So my name is Tsang, and I'm an architect. I've traveled to different places of the world, helping different countries to rebuild after natural disasters. So today my talk is about building blocks of humanity through disaster reconstruction. So this is me working on my plans. So I graduated from McGill University, as Nick introduced. And then after I graduated from school here, I was excited to travel. I had the travel bug because I wanted to go on an adventure. So my first adventure took me to Japan. So that's where the story starts. As a young designer, I was interested in looking at different cultures and just learning different ways to do designing different types of buildings. So today I'm going to take you on a journey. My journey through architecture, through my career in different places in the world, but looking at one of my own fascinations, which is disaster reconstruction. To give you a little bit of a background is that earthquakes happen all over the world, but there's a particular area in the world where earthquakes happen most. If you've heard about the term the Pacific Ring of Fire, you can see here in this red area is where we call the Pacific Ring of Fire. Why that happens is that around this red area is where, if you imagine the planet like an egg, and if you crack the egg, you would have cracks. That's where the crack is on our planet. Okay? So there you have all of the tectonic plates that are colliding with each other, and that's when earthquakes happen. So around this red ring is where 75% of the world's volcanoes are located, and also where 90% of earthquakes are occurring right now. So I'm going to take you on a journey on the Ring of Fire. Okay? So the first destination is Japan. I was in Japan starting from the year 2002 as a graduate student in architecture. At that time, I was very naive, to say the least, and I really went there to study architecture because Japanese architecture fascinated me. At that time, 10 years had passed like a blink of an eye, and in 2011, one of the largest natural disasters in our history occurred in Tohoku in Japan. If you remember, on March 11th, 2011, was when the large earthquake hit the areas in Fukushima, the northern Japan, where we call Tohoku, and where Fukushima and parts called Rikuzen Takara and other cities along the shore were ravaged by the disasters. And many of you have probably seen images like this of cities being ravaged by earthquakes and tsunamis. Okay? If you don't know, earthquakes happen first, and then tsunami is a consequence of earthquakes. So the first destination I take you to is Japan, and I call this the cleanup phase. I was there 3 months after the earthquake happened, and this is what it kind of looked like. So I was there, I was living in Tokyo at that time, and as a young architect, I really wanted to contribute to rebuilding something, because ultimately that's what I'm trained for, to design buildings and to build them. So I felt socially responsible to go there and to really help in the moment of need. So from Tokyo at the time, because all of the roads were ravaged by the earthquakes and there were cracks everywhere, it was a 10-hour bus ride all the way up to Tohoku. On the way, there was Fukushima and the radiation concerns and everything, but I decided to go anyway. The first day I was there, I started meeting the other volunteers, The other volunteers came from all parts of Japan and all parts of the world, and they started talking with each other. And we started to say, hey, where are you from? What do you do? And we had people from really all disciplines. We had chefs, we had bankers, we had scientists, we had carpenters, and we had architects who were all there really to try to contribute with whatever skills that they had. And me being an architect, I was there. I was like, yeah, I'm going to build something, and I'm going to be able to help you guys plan and make shelters. So that was what I was thinking when I was going to go there. But little did I know, the first day on the construction site, the supervisor and there were victims on the construction site. When I went there, what they told me was that, you guys, don't barge in. We are still walking in this site looking for what's precious to us. Photos, trophies, wedding rings, remnants of our past lives that we are still holding on to. So my concept was that I cannot go there and just say, hey, I'm here to build you a house. It was not time. The wound was still too fresh. Ultimately, this is the team that I went there with. So you spend a few weeks there just cleaning up the sites, piece by piece with our bare hands. So a few years passed, and this is one of the projects that we were able to do as our team. I was an architect and volunteer for Habitat for Humanity, and we were helping them repair some of the commercial buildings, this one being a particular one for a cleaning shop. So as you can see here, this was before, and this line here represented how high the tsunami was actually flooding the areas, which was about 4 meters high. So let's go to our second destination. The second place is in China. In 2008, there was a large earthquake that hit China in the area called Sichuan. More than 1 million buildings were ravaged during that time, and 450,000 people died from this natural disaster. And this was in 2008, so it's not that long ago. In this particular project, the area was in a very rural area, up in the mountains. So let's talk about this for a bit, and I call this the China phase, the relocation phase. So this is the story of an old lady who lived in a house on top of the mountains. A group of architects and volunteers came again, and we were saying, oh, we're here to help, we want to build you a new house. The lady was like, no, I don't want to leave here. This is my house. This is what it looked like after the earthquake. You can see that most of the building was demolished from the earthquake. The story is that the lady never wanted to leave this house. They wanted us to rebuild or help her rebuild her home because she felt that was where she really belonged. And us as architects or as politicians or as people coming in to help them, we have no right into saying that we're going to locate you somewhere else because this is part of who she was. So this is our team. Because it was a whole village that was ravaged, we had to relocate a whole village into a different area. So here we're moving some of the bricks that we fabricated on site because the local material there was brick architecture. And this is me. Since today we're talking about building blocks, right? So I'm showing you some of my version of playing with building blocks. But if you ignore the handsome model there, in the back you would see some of the foundations that we laid out for the earthquake. If you can see all these metal rods sticking out, that's the actual new foundation that we laid out for the seismic structures. So we planned it with a new, stronger structures so that with the new village coming in, if there was a new earthquake that were to struck, at least it would be more resilient. So this was the final project, and this was completed a couple of years ago. And ultimately, the lady never left her house. Never left her house. So we went there, we rebuilt the roads to get to her house, and we helped her rebuild the structure, but she never left her house. The third part of my journey is that I'm taking you to Indonesia. Indonesia was very different in scale. So I call this the construction phase. The construction phase because for this project, I was working for an architecture firm in Japan at that time, and the Japanese government and the Indonesian government decided to collaborate and say, hey, let's build a new hospital, a new school for Indonesia. And in Indonesia in 2009 was the last large earthquake that happened there. And if you remember the Ring of Fire, earthquakes happened there nearly every few months. Even when I was in Japan, every month I would feel the ground shaking. Not at the extent where buildings were collapsing, but you feel like you were living on the time bomb. And you feel the fragility of the soil. You don't know when your roof is going to collapse on top of you. So in Indonesia, the mandate was to go there and build a hospital and a school, because after a lot of these earthquakes, these facilities had collapsed. The spaces were very crowded because the resources were very low. So we sent a team of architects from Japan. We collaborated here with some architects and engineers from Indonesia. On the top here, you see the team of Japanese architects, Indonesian architects, and some of the nurses and doctors that we worked with to come up with a new unified vision, a shared vision for what would this new hospital and new school represent and how they wanted to work there, how they wanted to make this a better place for people healing from wounds. On the right, you see also some of the meetings that we had with the politicians. So this is myself. We're working on the models. This was the first model of part of the school that we were building in Indonesia. And this was the final project. So I spent 2 years, 2 years and a half, working on a project in Indonesia. This was the reconstruction of a hospital placed in Jakarta. And this was one of the first documented green and earthquake-proof structure in Indonesia. So as you can see, this was one of the featured articles in the Jakarta Globe, one of the main newspapers in Indonesia. So UI is University of Indonesia, UI developing green earthquake-proof hospital. So this was the first one. So as you can see here, the Japanese architects brought in this technology to help Indonesia rebuild in a stronger way. And I think the lesson to be learned here is that there are ways to build better, bigger, and stronger if we have the unified vision. So what are the building blocks? Today our theme is about building blocks. And surprisingly, I feel as an architect that building blocks is not architecture. I feel that there is an underlying structure in our humanity that can be summarized in these 3 themes that I talked about. The first one is dignity, and this is the story of the people looking through the rubble for their photo albums and for their precious things that represented their previous lives. Because I think that every person has a right to be treated with respect and as a person. And we as architects or as people coming in to help them, we cannot have these preconceived notions that none of this is worth anything. This is their treasures, and we cannot just come across with a bulldozer and say, let's build completely new, because everyone has their own baggage. The second theme is identity. And this is the story of the lady who didn't want to leave her house in the mountains. She did not want to leave the house in the mountains because she felt like that house was part of her. We cannot go there and say, hey, you lost your house, we're going to build you a new one, just move there, it's furnished and everything. No. Because every person connects to things and to places differently. And that's part of us. And I think the third one would be unity. Unity is the story of the collaborations between people, communities. Because without each other and without the help of everyone, with the unified version, the shared vision of creating something bigger, better, we're not going to be able to recreate or recover from natural disasters. And I tell you this not only for natural disasters, I think this is the basic building blocks of humanity. Because you can use this in the way you treat or you deal with challenges in your own lives. Or if you're trying to recover from something, some drastic catastrophe. Or in the way that you're going to help someone to recover from a so-called natural disaster. Okay? So finally, my next destination is the Philippines. As you know, last November, there was a huge typhoon that ran across parts of the Philippines. So presently, I'm collaborating with the emergency architects of Canada, and we'll be sending architects and engineers there with the mentality and the experience that we learned from our previous projects. And then to finalize my talk, I want to say something about building phases. So we talked about the cleanup phase. We talked about the moving phase. We talked about construction phase. But I think as an architect, I want to propose a new phase. And that's the one of understanding. Before we come in with our tools and our trucks, why don't we just take some time to understand the people and the people that we are working for, and to collectively think about what needs to be done and come up with the shared vision that we're looking for. And I think this image of Pikachu coming out of the rubble is really the image of empowerment, and empowerment coming out of your troubles, this disaster rubble, and coming out stronger. So thank you very much.